We move to step 2. Step 2, reapportion overheads to service cost centers. Reapportion overheads in service cost centers to production cost centers. Let's elaborate on that one. Because the service centers are not core to the organization, they should not have any costs at the end of the day sitting in those departments. So whatever costs have been apportioned to the service centers, you reapportion them to the cost centers. Okay? Again, the basis of reapportioning the overheads from the service centers would depend on how much the cost centers are benefiting from the service centers. So if there are more people in this department benefiting from the service center, more costs will be reapportioned to that cost center. Okay? So usually the reapportionment will be based on the number of employees who are benefiting from the service center. Once you have reapportioned the service centers, just to emphasize again, there are different methods of reapportionment. So pay attention to the question, which method they want you to use to reapportion the service cost centers to the cost centers. They said the cost of the service centers to the cost centers. Okay? We will look at those individually. Once these costs have been allocated, reapportioned to the cost centers, we move to step 3, which is to absorb the overheads into cost units. We'll now go into these steps individually with some illustrations.
Not cost centers, but cost units.
You absorb overheads into cost units. Yes. So you have that question in front of you. Mass Limited has the following overheads in the year ended 31st December 20X5. You are required, after allocating and apportioning overhead costs, calculate the total costs in the mixing department, steering department, stores and canteen department. Step 1 we said was what?
Step 1, allocate and apportion. Allocation and apportion.
Step 1 we said is divided into 2, with the first one being to allocate the whole cost to a cost center. So you have the mixing department, steering department, stores department, canteen. Then you've got the overheads there, which are broken down. The total overhead being 262. Which costs, which overhead can we directly tie to any of these departments? If you go through this list of overheads, you've got rent, insurance, you've got stores costs. Stores costs, this cost is just for the stores, and you've got the stores there. So the 75,000 will be allocated to the stores. So the stores were located with the 75,000. The other overheads, since they cannot be allocated, we will apportion them to all the departments. Now you have to find an appropriate apportionment method depending on the particular overhead. If we take the first one, rent and rates, 90,000. From the additional information, which one do you think would be appropriate to apportion the rent and rates? Would it be floor space or net book value of the machine?
Floor space.
Rent has got nothing to do with net book value of machines, so we're going to use floor space. So pro rata the 90,000 across, so the mixing will get 9,000 divided by the total 15,000 times 90,000.
So what?
9,000 divided by 15,000 times 90,000, which will give us 54,000. The steering will get 9,000 divided by 15 times 90, which will give us 18,000. We'll continue across the stores, the canteen as well, until the whole 90,000 is prorated.
Where do you get the 15 from? Where the total?
The 15 is the total of the floor space. The next is insurance of machinery and equipment. Which one is appropriate?
NBV machinery.
NBV, net book value of machinery, is what you would use to insure your machinery. So you prorata again the 40,000, 2 divided by 4,000 times 40, 1 divided by 4 times 40, and so on, to give you 20,000, 30,000, 10,000, 64, until the whole 40,000 is prorated. The stores were already allocated. We are remaining with the heating costs of 57,000. Heating costs will go with floor space. So use the floor space to prorata again 9 divided by 15 times 57, 3 divided by 15 times 57, until the whole 57 is prorated. Once you have reapportioned, you total them up. So the mixing is now 108, 200, steering 39,400, stores 90, 800, the canteen 23,600. That finishes step 1. So we've done the two steps in step 1. So we move to step 2. Step 2, what does it say? Step 2 is to reapportion overheads in service cost centers to production cost centers. So I mentioned earlier on that there are different methods of reapportioning the service cost center overheads. So you follow what the question, which method the question is asking you to use. Okay? So from our question, which one are the service centers? The service centers are the stores in the canteen. So we've got 2 service centers and we've got 2 cost centers. The production cost center is the mixing and the stirring. The service cost center is the stores and the finishing. So need to transfer all the costs in the service center to the production centers. The first method is known as the direct method. You've got a note for the direct method? So with the direct method, all the inter-service department work is ignored. So whatever work the stores does on behalf of the canteen and vice versa, whatever the work the canteen does for the stores is ignored. So we just reapportion all the costs in the stores and in the canteen to the mixing and the stirring. So continue with the lecture example, the same lecture example. You are now given more information on what basis to use to reapportion the service cost center overheads to the production centers. The figures you are seeing there on top, the 108, 200, those are the overheads we just finished apportioning. Then you are given more information now. You are told it's estimated, the estimated work done by the service centers for other departments, you are given percentages there. So under the direct method, the 20% estimated work done by the service centers for other departments. So the stores is benefiting 20% from the canteen. That will be ignored. The canteen also is benefiting 15% from the stores, and that will be ignored. So what it means is that as you reapportion, as you reapportion to the stores, your denominator will be how much? 80. 50 plus 30. As you reapportion to the canteen, your denominator will be 85. 40 plus 45. Clear? Yeah. So the stores is 9,800. So you're going to calculate 50 divided by 80 times 90,800.
50 divided by
80 times
What is it?
times 90,000 times 90,800